LA Times has done extensive reporting on it, looking for the origin of the Palisades fire in particular. And they keyed in on the hiking trail and an area called Skull Rock and trying to figure out, and they're actually calling it a crime scene, and yet they're not saying it's arson. But the question is whether it was in fact arson, whether it was teenagers playing there, whether it was a possibility of fireworks that may have started the fire, and so a lot of investigation going on right now about what started this just absolutely calamitous.
Now that may impact insurance coverage.
Disaster, and of course, if it's arson, that reporting also shows it may impact what is covered by insurance companies and what is not.
Yeah, there's police tape up in that area of that hiking trail and that park as they investigate, and kind of amazing after only a week that they're able to pinpoint it in that way. Nothing definitive yet, but there is reason to believe that this may have been started by a human act, which is just takes your breath away when you look at what happened afterward over the last several days. Let's go to Los Angeles, where we find staff writer for the LA Times, Ron Lin, has been covering the wildfires for the paper. Ron, thanks for being with us. What more can you tell us about that investigation? We can start there and kind of work forward. What are you hearing about origins of this fire?
Yeah, well, some of my colleagues, they've spoken with people at the origin of the Palisades fire, and some of the initial look is, whether or not there were New Year's fireworks, and there was a fire that had been doused around that time. And there are questions about whether it wasn't snuffed out completely, and that when we got those very fast winds last week, that was a rekindling. And then over at the Eaton fire, which was the fire over in Altadena, there are questions about whether or not there are neighbors in that area who have photos of an electrical tower appearing to show the first flames coming from the base of a Southern California Edison electrical transmission tower. Edison so far has said that they don't believe they're responsible, but that is a look at the investigation at that point.
So, Ron, let's talk about today now. We're hearing from our meteorologists, and I know you're hearing the same there, that those winds are going to pick up again here in just a couple of hours and really last through tomorrow night. So you're looking at a couple of very difficult days for firefighters. What are they expecting? What are officials expecting now? They put some strike teams in position. They believe they can do better than they did when they didn't know it was coming, obviously, a week ago. What are we expecting over the next 48 hours?
Well, it's just after 4 a.m. here in California, and so we've now entered this zone of a particularly dangerous situation, a PDS. That is the most extreme of a red flag fire weather warning for our region. And that means we're expected to see gusts of up to 70 miles per hour. This will be more of a typical Santa Ana wind event. It won't be as bad as last week in terms of the winds. However, we've had very, very little rain. We've had an astonishing 0.16 inches of rain since October. Think about it, at this time of year, this is supposed to be the peak of our rainy season. We should be seeing green grass on our hills. Overnight, there was even a fire out in Ventura County, the Otto fire. In a riverbed. Luckily, forward progress has been stopped, but this will be a very tense day for Southern California as we see these Santa Ana wind gusts, continue through to Wednesday midday.
Ron, can you give us a sense of what it's like to be living in an area of Southern California, Los Angeles County, where thousands of people, families, are now seeking temporary shelter? And many of those thousands are living with the knowledge that they will never be able to afford rebuilding places where they lived.
I mean, it's astonishing and heartbreaking. I mean, you seeing the images of seeing, many city blocks all, burned to the ground. It's heartbreaking. We now know that this is one of the most destructive and one of the most deadliest fires in California history, and it's heartbreaking. In the Pacific Palisades, for example, you have community institutions that are lost. 2 elementary schools substantially destroyed, 1 high school that can't open as expected in the coming days because a great deal of that campus has been destroyed. It is it's stunning to me in hearing from people talk about the situation that, you go back to a neighborhood where, you grew up and you just can't recognize it because all the things that made it where, what it was are gone.
Staff writer for the Los Angeles Times, Ron Lin, thank you very much for your reporting this morning.